If you're watching this, then you probably have a certain idea about what it means to be healed. And the question actually is that correct? Does that really entail the true process of healing? Because true healing is messy, it's layered. And as you've probably noticed, I've taken some time off because it is messy. When we discovered the releases back in 2022, for me, a roller coaster started. First of all, I realized that everything that I did before that was basically just a way of suppressing what was causing my chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME/CFS. And after that, I started sharing what I discovered. And the release program basically is sort of like a guide of everything that I went through myself, with hundreds, if not thousands, of different releases that I had. Eventually, I came to the point where I wanted to have symptoms, to push myself to see what would happen. Maybe my body would become afraid after so many years of inactivity, or maybe in that process of doing something, I could sort of like trigger something that was stored inside of my body and give me a symptom. And for me, that symptom often was muscle ache, or post-exertional malaise, or fatigue. And usually I always thought that symptom was justified. And it always took me a few hours to see that I was fooling myself and that I could become symptom-free within a matter of minutes. And that was a beautiful journey, but alongside of that, I did all of this. And in the previous year, I noticed that I had to process everything that happened to me in the last 5 years. We had a lot of attacks. What we did was not conventional. And sometimes I realized that I never really processed my own healing journey. So what happened is that I actually became angry. Maybe angry on other people, or maybe that was old anger, or maybe I even became angry on myself for not taking the time off. At least there was anger. So I became very angry by the end of last year, and some of you have already noticed that. I was sort of like a little bit tensed up. And that became a beautiful release. And after that, I noticed that I couldn't continue. I needed to reflect what I was doing here. But also, I needed to discover what was hiding underneath that anger. At first, I thought that I was finished with releasing, that my healing journey was completely over. But as it turned out, I was just fooling myself there. That's not how it works. Healing is layered, and it always goes deeper than we'd like to acknowledge. So I needed a lot of rest. I slept for like 12 hours a day, and working alongside of it didn't really feel right for me. I was meditating, and as soon as I wanted to start, I noticed that I had concentration issues. And again, I thought maybe that's justified. Maybe it's some sort of like a burnout. Maybe my nervous system needed some time. And eventually I realized that, again, I was just fooling myself here. Just like I always fooled myself that being symptomatic was justified, that there was a valid reason for my fatigue, I now believe that there was a valid reason for concentration issues. But as it turned out, there wasn't. What needed to happen was that I dived into my body and that I explored what was there. And again, you don't really hear this from a lot of, in this scene, because most of what this scene is all about, this healing scene, is about suppression, to find ways to push the emotions that are coming to the surface much deeper inside of your body so that your brain doesn't need to create symptoms for you to protect you. That's basically what the scene is mostly about. And we can call that nervous system regulation. It's a lot of blah, blah, blah. But it always goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And I realized after the anger came out that there was a lot of sadness inside of me. So what I did in the last few months was creating a lot of silence for me, a lot of peace, so that I could engage with the sadness that is inside of me and release it day by day. And eventually I needed to release sadness for around 20 minutes every day. It would just pour out of me. And I'd like you to realize that is healing. Healing is not arriving magically at a place where you never have symptoms, even though if the symptoms are not MCAS related. But when the symptoms are concentration issues or needing to sleep more, that what we're usually doing is fooling ourselves. And that means waiting. If you have MCAS, long COVID, or any other type of chronic illness with all these labels that don't really make a lot of sense, then what you're actually doing is accepting the waiting. Each symptom is caused by one emotion. The question always is, when will you dive into your body? When will you become present enough to actually feel it? How much time do you want to wait? And I mean, I've waited for a very, very long time. In that time, I thought that I had MCAS. And there was one layer in my body at that moment. One layer that came up to the surface. My brain freaked out, created the symptoms. And at that moment, I had that symptom. Then, by waiting, I sort of like soothed myself. And then the emotion was no longer at the surface. My symptoms were improving. Then I did something. Then the emotion came back to the surface. And I had the exact same symptom. Now, if you look at it from that perspective, most people, they have symptoms, or let's call it a chronic illness, because of the very same emotional layer that is there over and over and over again. That means they don't make any progress in their healing journey. And if you have been taught a technique to suppress that exact emotion in a better way so that you become symptom-free, you are not healed. That's not what it is. You are suppressed. And that's something completely different. And I know that if I would recommend you to do all the release techniques all at once, then you're probably too overwhelmed. And I'm not sure if your body could actually handle it. I'm not sure if actually you could handle the exact emotion beneath your symptoms. These emotions are overwhelming. They're not simple emotions. Everybody who is like offended by the idea of emotions behind their symptoms realize that emotions are much more overwhelming than people would like to admit. Extreme overwhelm, maybe extreme shame, maybe extremely feeling unsupported or being alone. All of these feelings can be too much too soon. And in our society, we push people into coping. If you feel lonely, we say go and find someone to fill up that gap. That's a coping mechanism to fight your loneliness by something that is outside of yourself. That's not how it works, because the same thing that is causing your symptoms is still there. And although healing is layered and will continue forever, maybe, I mean, I don't know. I've been doing this now for like 5 years, 4 years. I don't know. I'm bad at counting right now. I think that I will be releasing for a very, very long time to come. And I'm okay with that. Because after every release, I feel better and lighter and more in touch with myself. And that's, for me, completely worth it. My mind is calm. until the next layer arises. But I noticed that over time, the more I release, the better I feel inside of my body. And that means that for me, this entire healing journey of, first of all, developing a fear disorder, which I didn't call that way, then MCAS, then right now, what I had with concentration issues, is a beautiful opportunity to dive deeper into myself and to get more connected with myself. Now, that does sound like roses and sunshine, but it is sometimes the very opposite. It is more like humbling, because we have created our sense of identity based around trying to avoid what we have inside of ourselves. That little tension that we feel constantly inside of ourselves, and the voice in our head that is related to that. Because if you have no emotions inside of your body, it will be quiet there. That's who we think that we are. But imagine that you lose that. People call it an ego death. They make it really spiritual, but I like to make it very practical. Sometimes all that you think you are is resistance against life. So who are you when none of that matters anymore? When you don't even matter? When life just becomes a process and you're just witnessing it? Who's left? Is it you? Maybe you're there finally for the very first time. Or is it the lack of you? That's something that I'll leave with you. I've made another video about spirituality and chronic fatigue syndrome last year when I was in a different state of mind. I recommend checking it out. I put the link here somewhere. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. And I wish you a beautiful, difficult, and humble healing journey.